day everyone. So this is example 3 for week 3. Yeah, so we've started using NX now, and during these 3 examples that we gave you, you should be getting some experience on NX, get familiar with the features and where the different features lies inside NX. So for this example, we are going to create a sprocket. So this is typically which you will see on a bicycle. Yeah, at the at the cranks. So the pedals and the cranks are connected to this sprocket at the front with a keyway. However, this is just yeah, a generic sprocket. You won't see so for instance those circles on a general sprocket. This was just to include some pattern features in this design. Um, but this is typically what the sprocket looks like, but you will rather see maybe those top features mirrored at the bottom. So I'm going to recreate this sprocket for the example 3. And there's two ways of doing this. So firstly, you can recreate this entire sprocket. So start with that circle and then go outwards and include all the features, and then use pattern features for those half circles and these circles and so forth. Or you can only create half. So say for instance you create the left half and then mirror the right half. However, it's important to note that then it needs to be symmetrical about that axis. So about the z axis for this sprocket, it is symmetrical, but if you look at the x-axis, it's not symmetrical because you have that feature at the top and this at the bottom. So the method that I'm going to use is to recreate the entire sprocket. I think it's a bit easier for this example, but I'll also show you the mirror feature for that feature. So I'll only recreate the left hand side or the right hand side and then mirror it over the z-axis. So it's also then important to consider where you start your sketch. So from this it's quite clear there's a definite center, which is that point. But for some other sketches it might be that there's no clear center point where you should start your sketch, and then you should use your own discretion to determine where you should start. Typically you look at where you can have some symmetrical features so that you can use the mirror feature. So yeah, but that you can choose as you start your sketch, then you can determine where to start it, where's the best point to start a sketch. So going into the NX environment, I'm going to create a new sketch, and so it's a model. I'm just going to rename it example 3 week 3 example 3, and I'm just going to save it on my desktop. um, yeah, so and we're going to expect from you for the homework of week 3 to recreate sketches such as this one. So this is quite an easy example. There's some tricks for those features, but the rest is quite easy. So I'm going to create all of them and then lastly add in that feature. So I'm going to start my sketch. So you have your sketch option here. You start your sketch, and this will take you into the sketching environment. So you'll see that this ribbon at the top changes a bit. Um, so there's other features that shows up, and I'm going to start on the front view, which is typically the view you'll start at. And now we are in the sketching environment. So you have all of these options. You can change here to part navigator or the assembly navigator, but this is not an assembly, it's just a sketch, so we're going to use the part navigator. And on this left hand tab you'll see all the different features that we've added. So this enables us then to go back or undo or delete some features that we've added if we don't want them there anymore. So you don't lose the history of what you've done, and that makes it quite easy to edit the sketch afterwards. So some other yeah, CAD environments or CAD software don't allow this. So you'll only create a sketch and do all your features, and then if there's something that you're not happy with, you'll need to undo everything um, to maybe change one feature. So this is what makes NX quite nice. It's history based, so you can just go back to a feature and change it. So I'm going to start, as I said, with a circle in the middle. So that circle has a radius of 30 millimeters, thus a diameter of 60. So I'm going to start at a sketch origin. Um, so you just click on the sketch origin and then pull it outwards, and then you can type in your dimensions. So this is 60 millimeters for the diameter. Okay, so that's the first circle created. Now I'm going to create that outer circle. So the order of operation does not really yeah, it's not that important, but yeah, as we go further on in the module where you start to create three-dimensional models, the order might get more important. But for this one, you can just start wherever, as long yeah, as long as you choose your yeah, a great starting point. So for this one, it's obviously the center. So the next circle has a radius of 60, so diameter of 120. So you don't have to go out there. Yeah, you can just stay in the circle environment if you want to, if you need to create another circle. So that diameter is 120. Click enter and it creates that circle. Okay, so now I'm going to do the first pattern feature. So this is this small circles going around. So you'll see there's 8 times radius 5 holes on D90. So that D90 stands for diameter 90. So the center line of that circles is at the diameter of 90. And then there's 8 of them, and all of them has a radius of 5 or a diameter of 10 millimeters. So I'm first going to create that circle on which they will lie. So yeah, or rather not. So you can create it. So for instance, say yeah, create that 90 millimeter circle with diameter 90 millimeters, and then I'm going to change it to a reference line. So you'll see then it changes the sketch, um, and now I can sketch on that. But because I'm going to use a pattern feature, I can do it another way as well. So I'm going to delete that one. We have circles with radius 5 or diameter 10, and now I know, because it's diameter 90 for that circle on which they lie, this distance needs to be 45. So I'm just going to create a distance from there to there. Um, so it needs to create a vertical distance. Let me just see. So it's from there to the sketch origin, or actually just to the sketch horizontal. You see now it creates that dimension, but it's not defined yet. So that means the circle can still move. Okay, now it's defined. Let me just undo. So I just want to show you from that center line to the horizontal. So it's not black, the dimension. So ah, there I did it again. My apologies. Let's just create it again. So it's not defined. So it will also show you at the bottom here. Um, Sketch is partially defined with one movable curve, and that movable curve is still this circle because there's no dimension constraining it in the vertical axis. So it can move up and down, but because I've started it on that vertical axis, it cannot move to the left or the right. So it can only move up and down. So I'm going to create that dimension now to state that it needs to be 45 millimeters from the horizontal. And now you'll see the sketch is fully defined. And at the end of your sketch, you always want your sketch to be fully defined, meaning that there's no curves that can move or that is not fully defined in the sketch. Because if you have that, and say for instance you change a dimension of another feature and it's connected to a curve that's not fully defined, it will sometimes move that curve to get to the constraint that you gave it. But if it's fully defined, it will only change the dimension that you change. So you always want the sketch fully defined, and we will look at that when we mark. So to make sure that you follow the correct procedures, you did not just create the curves and then some of them are not fully defined. So, and my tip to you would be to always make sure as you go through the sketch that it's fully defined. Don't create everything and then at the end try and determine which curves are not defined yet. It's just easier to do it correct from the start. Okay, so now we saw that there's 8 of these holes. So I've constrained it at a radius of 90 or 45 or diameter 90. Now I'm going to use this pattern feature, which can create patterns in 2 directions. So either linear, circular, or actually 3. So and also general. So for this instance, I'm going to use circular. My curve would be that circle there. So I've selected that curve. My point of rotation would be the center point, so that's also the sketch origin. And then it's 8 of those circles. and the span angle, which is the angle about which they should span, is 360 degrees. So for instance, if I change this to 180, it will only span from there to there, which is 180 degrees, and it will create 8 circles, equally space them out in that 180 degrees. So I'm just going to change it back to 360, sorry. So that's my curve, my rotation point is that, and a count of 8. And then I click OK, and it creates it. So that's quite easy. So that circles are now created, and now I'm just going to create that keyway. So it's 8 times 4, so 8 millimeters on the horizontal and 4 in the vertical. So I'm just going to use a line for this, zoom in a bit, and then, so I don't want it like that, so I typically do this. So that, connect those two. So I've not defined them yet. Then so you can, yeah, let's do this. So you can say, okay, now I want that point, that end point of that line, and that arc, they should be coincident. So that means touching each other, and that point and this curve also. Okay, and then just to make sure it's defined, you select both of them and say make vertical. So that ensures that those two lines are vertical. So that's just some optical illusion. Yeah, if that line is over there, it looks like that one is going to the right, but actually it's vertical. Um, Now I can specify the dimension, so I'm just going to click on that line, say that's 8 millimeters, and we can see from this that it's in the center there. So I'm just going to move it a bit so it can still move. You'll see sketch is partially defined with 3 movable curves, which is those curves, and we know that because it's in the center, I can say that from there to there should be 4 millimeters. So that defines it nicely, and then also this line should be 4 millimeters high, and because once I've sketched it, I made sure that those 2 points are horizontal with each other, so in the same line horizontally, so it also changed the left side. And now you'll see that there's no line there, so to get that feature you'll just say trim, and I'm going to trim that line away. So that's quite easy, and there you have the keyway inserted. So you'll see the sketch is fully defined, and it's yeah, in the correct position as well. So the next feature would be, so let's first create that big circle, and that big circle is, let me see, so radius 150, so diameter 300. So I'll zoom out a bit, create a circle from the sketch origin, diameter 300. And then also you'll see that that's also a circle, which is just trimmed at sections. So to find that one's diameter, let me see where it is. Okay, I'm not seeing the dimension for that circle. I'll try and find it now. Okay, never mind. So these circles, there's 18 of them. They have a radius of 20 on diameter 350, and because there are half circles, it means that that center line, or that center of that circle, is a diameter of 350 millimeters, meaning that that circle at the outermost edge is a diameter 350. So let's add that. So 350. Okay, and now we've created that outer circle as well. So I'm first going to create these circles at the bottom. So the code word for this video is coffee. So let's create those circles. So they have a diameter of 30. I'm going to start with that circle. So because it's defined on the vertical line. So diameter 30, and let's see, it states 17 times R15 holes on R115, span 120 degrees. So it's on R115. So that distance from there to there needs to be 115 millimeters. So let's just create that dimension. So click on the center there to the horizontal, is 115 millimeters. Okay, so now it's defined. Um, so now I can pattern this feature to the left and right. So I'm going to use the pattern feature again. Specify that circle. My center point will be the sketch origin. There's only 3 going that side, so I'm going to say 3. But that includes this one, so it's actually 4. And then my span would be 120 divided by 2, because I'm only doing half now, so it's 60. So change that to 60 degrees. So let's start with the right hand side. You'll see that's the same. So click apply. If you click apply, it opens this, it keeps this feature open, feature creation open. So once again, I'm going to select that curve, specify point, which is again that center point. So it keeps at the previous setting. So I'm just going to reverse my direction, meaning it goes to that side now. So as easy as that, reverse the direction, go to the other side and click OK. And now we've created that feature, so that was quite easy, and you'll see the sketch is fully defined. So second last thing is to add those half circles. So I'm just gonna start at the top. So let's see, 18 of those holes, radius 20. So let's create, you can either create an arc, but I like to create a circle, and you'll see why now, because otherwise if you use the arc feature, so say arc by center point, which means you select the center point and then you select there and drag it there. Yeah, I don't like this method. You can use it if you want to. I'm going to use a circle, so it's radius 20. uh, yeah, radius 20, so its diameter of 40 millimeters. And as we saw earlier, it's on diameter 350, meaning it's on that line. So now once again, just get that center point and then this curve, and then you say make coincident, so it moves that center point of that circle onto that circle. Once again, trim. So I'm going to trim that half away and that half away, and as easy as that, I've created that feature. And now I'm just once again going to use the pattern feature. So you'll see typically the default is connected curves. So if it's connected curves and I click on that curve, it will take the entire curve because all of them are connected. Uh, and I'll see if this works now, otherwise I'll show you another method, because sometimes you cannot get it fully defined with this method that I use now. But you don't want the entire curve, so you can just say pattern and then select here. So this is your feature selection, or yeah, your filter for selection. So single curve, and only select that half circle there. It will be circular. My center point will once again be the sketch origin, and this time I have 18 of them span 360 degrees. So 18, and my span is 360. It arranges them nicely, and if I click OK, it creates all of those circles. So now you'll see the sketch is partially defined with 19 movable curves. So let me just see if I trim them, if it creates a fully defined sketch. Otherwise, we'll need to follow another method. So sorry for this, it's taking a bit longer. Okay, so now all of them are trimmed. Let's see if, so you can see that those curves can still move. Uh, Actually they cannot. So you will see if you click on it and you try to move it, you won't be able to move it, but in the background that line is essentially moving. So I'm just going to undo everything, and try another method to get it fully defined. Okay, so before doing that, I'm going to stop here. So let me quickly see. I'm not going to do all of them. So my curve would be that one, my point would be that one, and just give me one for now. has some problem. Just reset it. My curve is that half circle. My center point, I don't think I clicked it correctly. Yeah, it's that one. I only want one. I'll give me two. Maybe that works. Yeah, sorry. I keep forgetting that that count includes the original one. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, sketch is fully defined, which is good news. If I trim that one, let's see, and close, sketch is partially defined. So, and that's because this curve can essentially move now. Let's just trim that one as well. So now, yeah, now it has 4 movable curves. Let me just think of how we can not do this. Okay, let me trim that one again. So now the sketch is partially defined because you've removed part of that curve, meaning that it's not fully defined anymore. And I think that's because, okay, no, so it's still defined here at diameter 350, which is correct. Let me just undo up until there. Okay, so let me pattern this feature. So that entire circle, center point. Okay, sketch is fully defined. Remove that one, remove that one, and remove that one. There it goes again. Okay, but to keep this video short, um, I'll go and figure out why it's not fully defined at the end of the pattern feature. But to keep the video short, I'm just going to do it now. But it's really important to keep your sketch fully defined. So let me just trim out those two. Use pattern, single curve, only that half circle. My center point is there. I want 18 of them, span 360. Click OK. Trim. So just trim all of those lines. I may be missing some. Okay, just give it some time to trim all of the lines. So you'll see, yeah, it's partially defined, but it is actually defined because you cannot move this curve now. You see, if you can try and drag any of these lines and they will not move around. I think it's just NX being stupid. Okay, so then we're going to add the last feature, which is those two features. So I'm first gonna start. Let me just zoom in. So I'm gonna start with that lines. So because we have a dimension there that it's 30 degrees apart, meaning that it's 15 degrees from that center line. So that's just a line, and I'm going to only create the left hand side and then just mirror it. So there's a line going something like that. We know that the angle, so from there to there, there's an angle of 15 degrees. Okay, so that's defined. And then we also have that there's a radius of 75 there and 130 there, and then there's a small vertical line going there as well. So I'm going to add that one again. Oh, it's not vertical, just a straight line. So I'm going to add another line here somewhere. And we know that the angle between that line and that line is 60 degrees. So from there to there, it's 60. Okay. So, but now this line can still move around. There's no physical dimension keeping it there. So now we need to add, let's add in those curves. So that curve and that curve. And then actually I've done this incorrectly. So I'm going to remove it. sorry, my apologies. I'm first going to add those curves. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the arc by center point. So my center point is the sketch origin, and then we have 130 radius. So just insert 130 and tab, and then I'm just going to drag it roughly from some point to another point, and then once again sketch origin. We have a radius of 75, so 75, 75, um, and somewhere from there to there. Now I'm going to add in this vertical lines, or not vertical, straight lines. So there's one and there's one. So now the dimensions are correct, but we still need to add this angle. So let me just see if it sees it as an angle. Yeah, 15 degrees. So that's moved correctly. And then we also know that from this line to this line there's an angle. Now it's specified it at the other side. So that's 60 degrees. Okay. So now those lines are added incorrectly. Now we can just so you'll see the sketch is partially defined. Okay, now we have those circles that's not defined, but we can also see that this is not black yet, meaning that they are not defined yet. So we can add, you'll see there's 4 times 25, meaning that that one, that one, that one, and that one is 25 radius, and then we have 4 10, so that's those bottom ones. So that's that radius of that fillet there is 10. So I'm just going to add a fillet. You click on the first and the second line between which you want to add a fillet. The radius is 10 millimeters, and it automatically trims it away. And then from there to there is also 10 millimeters. And then we have these, that's 25. So between in that corner it's 25, and also in that corner it is 25. Okay, so now that's that feature recreated. Let me just see where it can move, because I see it's not defined, and I think it's because that, yeah, that angle, yeah, there's the problem. Let's just undo that. So there's a dimension missing in this one, so it needs to specify I think this angle for the sketch to be fully defined. So let's just add this angle and see if it's fully defined then. So I'm not going to change it, I'm just going to yeah, so it's still not defined. Okay, no. So there's some dimension missing for this sketch, which needs to make it fully defined. I'm not sure what that dimension is now, but since I did not change anything here, yeah, it's correct for now. But yeah, that there's a dimension missing there. So just to create it on the other side, I'm going to use the mirror feature. I'm going to mirror that connected curves. My center line would be the Z axis, and I will click OK, and there we have it. So now if I click finish, there we have the sprocket created. So if I look at look at it like that from the front view, it is quite similar or exactly the same as this one. So the only thing that might be not exactly the same is this feature because of that dimension that's missing there. You'll see that these ones looks a bit longer down there than this one's, but essentially it's the same sketch. So we'll make sure that you have all the dimensions. But yeah, that's how you will use NX to create sketches. So this thing, yeah, won't typically be extruded now because there's lots of sketches. You can, but yeah, for week 3, this is what you'll need to create, and yeah, enjoy the work in NX. So we start. Thank you for watching this video.